Bible today is chapter 61. So after reading about this one that would preach and preach a release to the captives, a recovery of the sight of the blind, and about Jehovah's acceptable year, Jesus hands the scroll back to the attendant and sits down. Now, even more anticipation and this tittering on the edge is definitely fixed and felt by everybody, especially by Jesus. I mean, everyone's just leaning in. Then Jesus speaks, most likely at much length, and as it's stated at Luke 4:21, he says this: "Today this scripture that you just heard has been fulfilled." Now, the next emotion, to move through the people is of marvel and wonder. And they say to one another, actually, they're more like asking to me, "This is the son of Joseph, is it not?" Then Jesus picks up, of course, their own overwhelming desires for him to perform. I mean, it's like this anxiousness just moving through them, anticipation. They just want him to get to the miracle works, working of the miracles, But he's doing a lot of talking. He's doing a lot of, the things that he does, in my opinion, So he states at this point, from picking, because he's so intuitive, Jesus, he states at Luke 4:23 and 24, "Physician, cure yourself. The things we heard as having happened in Capernaum do also here in your home territory." So he's anticipating what they're thinking. And he's very good at it. So evidently, Jesus' former neighbors at this point, it's starting to turn the emotions from marvel and wonder and anticipation and anxiety and all of this and anxiousness. It's starting to turn. It's starting to, as we say, kind of go left. It's starting. It hasn't really kicked up, but it's getting there. They feel that healing should begin at home for the benefit of his own people. So they're not really understanding why he went all the way over there and he hasn't did it there first. So basically, this is the moment. This is the pinnacle moment when it starts to turn, and they feel slighted. And they start to actually start that agitation and that anger toward them. As I said, things start to go left and they start to go sideways. Now, the third question is this: what do the people try to do to Jesus? So we've already just said that it's starting to go sideways and they're starting to get in their feelings. So as we pick up at scripture in the same book of Luke, the same chapter 4, scripture verses 25 and through 27. Let me not say and 27. 25 through 27. 1 Kings 17, 8 through 16, and 2 Kings, 5, 8 through 14, we see that Jesus relates and shares stories of two individuals, Elijah and Elisha, to establish his points about how people who are not doing certain miracles and certain wonders in their own place where they're from. It's not just him. There are others that also have experienced this as well. And I don't see it as him trying to slight them. He's just speaking the truth. And as we know, the truth is not well received. It's not well received now, and it wasn't well received then. That's my 2 cents. So anyway, Jesus explains that there are many widows. He starts with Elijah first. He explains that there are many widows in Israel, during the days to Elijah. Jesus notes that Elijah was sent to none of these widows. Rather, he went to a non-Israelite widow in Sidon, where he actually performed a very life-saving miracle. This is found in 1 Kings 17. This is what the 1 Kings 8:16, which is actually, we find out there's 2 things that actually happened in which with the food, never-ending food, he kind of did something similar to what my take on it is what Jesus did at the wedding. Okay. Never ending. Okay. Meaning you may have a little. The widow extended what she had, but she said she had very little and it was ready to run out. And that to me is a miracle unto itself. But the second miracle had to do with the son, and the son passing away from the same widow and him resurrecting the young man. We'll get into that. Hopefully I would like to do something similar to what I did with the Samaritan woman, as well as the other thing in which I did recently. Okay, go a little bit more in depth and see if I can find more supplemental more information on that. Okay, so resurrection. Okay, then we are going to look at Elisha. Okay, so he goes into Elisha. There were 12 lepers. There were lepers. 12 lepers, no. There were lepers, okay? This account is found at 2 Kings 5:8-14. But Elisha cleansed only Naaman from Syria. So after Jesus finished these true life accounts, he's just speaking the truth. He's stating his points. He's not trying to slight anybody. He's not trying to do any of these things. I don't perceive it that way. But when people are in their feelings and it's bringing a light upon their own and exposing their selfishness and their blatant lack of faith, and it's making them look unfavorable, they're not just in their feelings and they're not just a little annoyed or slighted. Now they're just downright furious, in my opinion. And they rise up and rush Jesus outside the city. Okay. Then they take it even a step further. They try to throw him over the mountain brow. Okay. They call it the brow of the mountain. To me, it's throwing them over the mountain, throwing them over the cliff. Okay, so these people are way past, I'm just a little annoyed, I'm just a little angry. They're furious, they're enraged. That's my opinion. Okay, but somehow, of course, he, is able to get away from that, okay? From this attempt. This was an attempt, okay? And tried to throw over the edge, but he escapes from their grasp and he gets away safely. This will not be the only time in which people respond like this to Jesus. This is Teachable Moments with April podcast Bible study from The Greatest Man Who Ever Lived. Chapter 22. 4 disciples are called. After the murderous attempt on Jesus' life in his hometown of Nazareth, he moves to the city of Capernaum near the Sea of Galilee. This fulfills another prophecy of Isaiah, and it is the one that foretold that people of Galilee dwelling by the sea would see a great light. Now, as Jesus carries on his light-bearing work of kingdom preaching here, he locates 4 of his disciples. These had traveled with him earlier, but went back to their fishing business when they returned with Jesus from Judea. Likely, Jesus now searches them out, since it is time to have steady, regular helpers whom he can train to carry on the ministry after he's actually gone. So as Jesus is walking along the seashore and sees Simon Peter and his companions washing their nets, he goes over to them. He climbs into Peter's boat and asks him to pull away from land. Now, when they get out a little distance, Jesus sits down in the boat and begins teaching the crowds on the shore. Afterward, Jesus says to Peter this, "Pull out to where it is deep, and you men let down your nets for a catch." "Instructor," Peter replies, "for a whole night we toiled and took nothing, but at your bidding I will lower the nets." Now when the nets are lowered, such a great multitude of fish are caught that the nets began to actually rip.
Urgently, the men motioned to their partners in a boat nearby to come and help. Soon, both boats are filled with so many fish that they begin to actually sink.